Hello and welcome back. My name is Tris and this is Double O'Neill. My channel is about model railways and my journey along that way. I'd like to talk to you about what I've been up to in the past 2 weeks, and there's a few bits that I've put quite a bit of time into, and one main bit was the platform. Well, it's kind of the main bit, and this will go on for maybe a couple of episodes, but we'll feature other things at the same time. And on this episode I paint the brickwork, which we put on the last episode, as well as the plaster top, which I thought this isn't going to take long, and it turned out it took a little bit of time. There was a bit of hot weather at the time during one bit, and I put some time in up in the loft, got that done, but the weather's actually cooled down a bit, which has been nice. And I've been able to spend a bit of time doing that platform, getting it right, getting that white stripe along the edge, as well as this side that's really hard to get to, got that done as well. But we're going to go through that on this episode and you're going to see it all getting done. I also visited Bucks Rail Centre, and that was honestly really nice. That was for Father's Day, and to be able to walk around that site was a pleasure. It's such a large site, and you can just have a really nice walk around. There's a one-way system, and you just work your way around and you get to see everything. There's a museum now, which is nice. They had an 060 going up and down. I wasn't sure which one it was, so I don't want to start saying what it is, but that was nice. I've got some footage of that, which will be coming. And there's a little garden railway bit down one end, which is quite nice. It's a bit more than a garden railway. It's kind of up on a stand, and it's quite large actually. It's really good. And there's little rides that you can take your children on, or if you're a big kid you can go on yourself. And yeah, it's just a really nice site. And I want to talk about the site itself, because at the moment they've got a short up and down run, but I've always thought that'd be nice if they could go further, and they can. They want to initiate the breakout, and they've got some information up about it. And they're trying to raise £750,000, so it's quite a lot. They've said that it's £1 million per mile, basically, to get this line sorted, and it will go and meet another section. I've got some notes on my phone from when I was there, but they're going to go northwest from the line, underneath the bridge that you have to drive over to come into the sites, and then go alongside the Network Rail line, and that'll be excellent, really good for them. And it'll probably attract hopefully a few more people to come down for a nice long ride. At the moment it goes backwards and forwards on that short section when you go for that ride, and it's nice, but I'm sure they'll appreciate being able to utilise what would be a fantastic one. So yeah, that's something that I'm looking forward to seeing them do. And yeah, just look at these notes now. They call it the Breakout, like I said, and they started this in 2019. The idea of doing this, or publicising anyway, that I had on here. Maybe they've been it from earlier, but that's my understanding. And yeah, they've obviously been hurt, like a lot of the heritage lines, through this kind of COVID time. And so hopefully, yeah, take a visit down there, buy a few things from the gift shop, and they've even got a bookshop, which I'd like to talk to you about, because I enjoy getting the books. I normally pick them up wherever I can, because I don't know a lot about railways, so I'm trying to learn. And there's pictures, which are always very helpful, as well as information. And in this shop there was no exception of just how much you could get there. It was wonderful. And I'd like to show you these books, because they're brilliant. Thought we'd get comfy for this one. I don't have a big work area in my little hobby room, so we're chatting here. So these books are, for me, very interesting. There's advantages to getting them. One is to donate to the railways that you get them from, anything that you get. For this, I'm assuming these are donated to them and we buy them back off them, which is wonderful, because all that money is a big donation to that railway. And that's important because it keeps heritage lines going, as you know, and yeah, we get to enjoy steam trains and railways, and even some of the diesels from time to time going around, which is great. I picked up books of various kind of descriptions. So I've got one which is like a reference book, which has lots of different engines in, which is really interesting when you have a little flick through, and you can read and learn about these different engines. And for me, my knowledge basis on the hobby, on the history, is very small, and I want to learn more. So to be able to read through these is really good. There's another one here which is the Kettering and Huntingdon line, and that's where I get to read up more about what's happened in my local area where I currently live, and I'm looking forward to learning a bit more about that. Then I've got a collection of books here, which is the Great Western Railway and its history of, and it's got from 1923 to 29, 30 to 39, and 39 to 48. It's got all the bits about the Great Western Railway and its line. And you can go through, you read through it, and the biggest thing that I find, the big advantage, is when you look through it, you can find pictures inside, and they can give you a lot of inspiration to how you should be doing things on your railway. Just looking at just various bits where you see where signals are sitting, just, I don't know, how close certain things are, the types of pylons that they have for the telephone lines of power going through. And it's just very interesting. There's viaducts and I don't know, just all sorts. So that's wonderful. The other book that I got is called Jenny, and it was written by someone called J.B. Snell. Don't know his whole name. It doesn't say it here. Maybe it is. I can't see. Anyway, it's a fictional book about narrow gauge railways, and I'm looking forward to reading that. And it should be good. It says it was first published in 1958. So for me, it's a pleasure to get a really nice fresh book that I can have a read through and read this nice little story. Anyway, I hope that kind of helps you a little bit. So that was at Bucks Rail Centre where I saw these. At Didcot Railway, I like to pick up a few of them. They're interesting because it's £4, let's say, for this book, and there's a stunning amount of, well, images inside. And I'm not going to find these on Google, and I'm not going to necessarily see these if I go to a heritage line, because we're now in the modern age. Yes, there's some things that are similar, but you get to see some authentic looks of actually how worn out they looked, or, you know, unkept they are, how the tracks are looking. May not be colour in there, but you get a very good idea of how you should be doing things for your model railway. I hope that helps you. Hopefully you can see what I meant. I would have done it here, but it's I don't have a lot of room, and to show you these books is a pleasure. I spent £32, and all that money goes towards help building that site up, and hopefully we'll see in a couple of years, or however many it will be, a nice line, and we'll go back there and have some fun. So onto the platform, let's take a look in the loft, and you can follow my progress on that. The next stage of the platform will be the brickwork that we just have here. And I'm planning to paint it in the same way that I've done some of my other brickwork, as I've found that to be enjoyable, and I feel that I can get a result that I know I'll achieve. Whereas I've tried to do it in some of the other ways, I've seen other people do it, and I never find it looks as good as what they've done. So with a bit of practice on this embossed plastic, I've found mixing the brick red with some other colours as I'm going along, and kind of splotch over it, being non-specific to each brick, I can get the shades that I want, and that works out quite nicely. So with this, I'm going to paint my brick base layer on, but introduce other colours as I go that reintroduce the brick base, if I can use my words. We'll work our way across, and once I've done that, I use my tiling grout, rub it in with my finger, dab it with a sponge afterwards and we'll go from there. But first I need to do my brick base first, and then I've got to also do the other side, not this bit because you're not going to see it, but the other side down the other end of the platform. So I'm going to have to pop in through my small triangle and paint that, but we'll focus on this bit first and we'll work our way along. Previously working on the painting, you've got it in your hands, you can tilt it at an angle and work on it. So I've obviously put this first layer on. It's looking like I've painted some form of brick shade onto it. Obviously it's far from finished, and you can't see any kind of mortar lines unless the mortar lines are a dark brick colour, of course. I'd like to add in my mortar mix. And by doing that, I'm using my tile grout that you've seen I've used in other episodes when I've done some of my 3D printed buildings. And I want to do the same thing on here. The only problem is this is now vertical, whereas before my building's been on this side and I add it onto the top and I mush it in with my finger. I'm going to try and do this, and I'm probably going to make a lot of mess, but it'll be a lot of fun. And after I've done that, obviously I've dusted away the excess. My track might need to be re-weathered. Maybe it's been weathered in a way that it's working in a chalky area. But what I'm doing now is, after putting the chalk on, which with my thumb I've made sure the top layer is clear, what I do is I gently use a sponge with, obviously I've got way too much water there, it's gone so dark, you can ruin it a bit. You have to really make sure your sponge is only slightly damp. So you can just work across the tops. And it's so you can set your material in there, but this sponge is a bit too thick. So what I'll do, I'm just going to cut it in half. Okay, so I've made that in half. We can run that along gently. What you must remember is you can always come back and re-grout certain areas that you find have gone a bit thin. But this is the kind of thing that I do. Let's run this across and it will set the top layer of grout. Nice and easy, just like that. Okay, so that's like that. Just run it round. Sometimes with my buildings that I do, to get the right effect, to the point that I can see the grout, is I do about 3 attempts. So I'm happy. But with this, I have a feeling it's going to be right in the first attempt, because I'd already had a practice on this embossed plastic, and after the first attempt, it looked good. And it dries really, really quickly. So I'll just do these inner edges again here. You'll find that, you know, some of the acrylic comes off and it will go a bit red. But ultimately, this is the job, and then you can come back later and do a bit more. It's as easy as that. I've left this for a few days. I was busy with work. I've come back and I'm really pleased with it. I haven't decided if I'm going to put the varnish on just yet, or I'll do it a bit later when I do the top surface. But if I gently, if I can, move the camera around, stay in focus. I'm really pleased with the fact that I haven't gone completely uniform like I normally do, where you have just 2 colours on things. Like when you get to here, it gets a bit darker, and when I was at Severn Valley Railway, we're able to see the dirt that's on the sides of all this. And yeah, it's good to make it a bit nicer than that, isn't it? So what I'm going to do now, I've got some various quantities of the Hobbycraft paints. They're quite cheap little pots, but one's called Concrete. You'll recognise these paints. These are, again, the Hobbycraft. It says Concrete on the side, very small writing, you really have to look. But they will do the job, hopefully, and we'll see how it looks. I don't know if I need to add any texture to the top of the surface. You know, I might need to add some talcum powder with the mix, I don't know, or is the finish of the body filler going to be enough? But we'll find out. I'll lay some paint on and we'll have some fun with that. Now I've painted the top and I think I'm happy with it. I feel at the moment it's too uniform, the colour, but maybe once I've put some other things on there, I've got a bit of weathering on, I can even put some powders in to smudge up the surface a little bit. I've got some various weathering powders you would have seen on the last episode. that I've been playing with that. So I think the first thing I need to do is I want to paint the one level of brick on this side, and then I'm going to use my masking tape, and then we'll do the very top edge, and we'll just see how that looks. I'm a little bit worried that the paint will peel off after putting the masking tape, but if that happens, then I'll just touch it up with some grey and we go from there. Wondering if I should now varnish this first and then mask it and then do the white primer, but I'm going to take a chance, see how it goes, and we go from there. Alright. So when I peeled off my masking tape, I had a small disaster. The other bits had tiny bits of white bleeding through, but here a lot of it peeled off, which is very upsetting. And I thought, oh god, because it was an early bit that I peeled off, so I wasn't too impressed. So now what I do is I come back in with my grey paint that I used before. Luckily I'd made enough that I had some left over. My little paint palette, and all we do, we're just touching these areas, and to be honest, it would just look like a repair platform, so even more prototypical, which is quite amusing for me, because I was complaining about the uniform look of it not long ago, and now I've got some kind of repair work being done on it. It's almost like it was just in real life. I'll just paint that in, just taking my time, and to be honest, if I go over the white bits, I think it's going to be alright. Again, when you go to the the railways, it depends where you're looking, but it's not always perfect. But you can try your best to do it. Just work my way across. Okay, who would have known, huh? Now, I'd say I'm happy with it, but it didn't go completely perfectly, but I'm thinking with weathering and doing other things on it, I won't be so upset. So below where the white line is, it bled through a little bit onto some of the other brickwork, but I could always add some washes later on to show the the individual bricks a bit more, when they're cutting in, and to kind of just make them a bit dirtier at the same time. But I'm not going to rush into it. I'm always worried about ruining things. So I'm happy to take my time and get on with it, obviously, but make progress in other ways and come back to it. The one thing that's really missing from here Well, there's lots of things missing from here, but the one thing that I wanted to start looking at was my station building. So I jumped onto CAD. I use a software called Creo 3. It's an older one of their variants, but it's very good. I use it for work. It's very handy for me. What I wanted to do was base it off something that I really like, and as you saw in the last video, I went to Severn Valley Railway. I thoroughly enjoyed getting over to Bewdley's site, where they had a wonderful building. I took some pictures, I looked at them more and thought that's what I want. I don't want to copy exactly the full width of it, because I'd be using a lot more platform area. Maybe I should have thought about that a bit more before doing this, but I hadn't made my mind up until more recently. So I wanted to use up this area and have room for some little sheddy bits on the side, have some stairs in the back eventually, and yeah, that would be that. It's a bit of a project being a station building. I'd like to put a little bit of time into it, but it's not going to be a large building. So I jumped on my 3D printer after drawing it up and kind of drew something really basic, or just a mock-up. So that's it off the 3D printer. This is printed in PLA, so very simple, very basic. Looking at the moment, I've got some windows, there's some doorways. Here's the side doorway entrance in there. They will come in and get the tickets and in and out through these double doors. That'll be this side, and obviously you've got some windows there for people to look out of if they're sitting inside musing about what they could be doing that day. And obviously we've got an end extension here that was added on. Obviously I need to do a roof and things, but to start with something like this gives me an idea of what I want, and that's simply going to sit on here, and it's about the right size. I'm thinking with this end piece here, we could extend that out, being that it's a little bit short. So I'm going to bring it out another 5mm and then put this here. I can have the fencing ending it off, coming across here. We can have a little walkway around the side. And then on the end here, I'd like to have some, I don't know, just little huts and sheds or whatever. But I don't want to rush into it. I thought let's stay with a small proportion, otherwise it will be overpowering for the layout. And yeah, so that's that. That won't necessarily be done overnight. I don't think I'll finish it on the next episode either. But what I do is each episode, if I do work on it, I'll show you a bit of progress with it, because it's something that I'm keen on getting nice. And if it's not right, you know, and I finish the whole project, I'll just have to do it again, won't I? It feels a bit smaller actually on the heights as well, so I'd like to maybe increase a few of the heights, make proportionally this just a little bit taller. But apart from that, I think it'll be alright. It's the size of a person on here. Then we've got the second level, and I think the second level just needs to be a bit taller, just to, well, make it a bit more scale there. So yeah, so that's what I'm happy with. But with all this done, I'd like to run some locos around it and show you something that's very special to me, a loco which is a guest to the layout. And what we do is we nip over and go see him on what I feel is the scenic section of the layout. This is a K's kit that my dad built. It's a Taff Valleys, well, it's an ex-Taff Valleys class kit, and it's for obviously the Great Western livery there. And my dad built this many years ago. It's a scratch-built kit, well, not scratch-built, but built from their kit with the chassis and everything up. So I shouldn't have said scratch-built, but it's built up out of a kit. And for me, I just love all this. Obviously it's got the white metal body, brass chassis soldered together. It's got all the cool contacts and everything. It's honestly a really lovely loco, and something that as a little boy I loved seeing on the layout. I didn't always run it around that much, but he's been very nice and let me borrow it. So I gave it a brush off because it was very dusty from where it had been. It had a nice little box, and yeah, so that's what I wanted to get on the layouts and give a run round. I've given it a little warm up. It's gone forwards and backwards for some time, sorry. And if I'm honest, I was pretty happy about it. All I need to do is add some people inside it for him if he'll let me, and we can finish it off. Obviously this isn't an express engine. I guess it was just for shunting back in the day. But from a child to now, it still excites me seeing this little loco. What we'll do is we'll connect it up and we'll go from there. So I hope you liked my dad's, it's by Caser is the name of the company. Again, I wrote it down. It's a Taff Valley S-Class, not Valley, Taff Vale. I'm assuming I keep saying Valley, Taff Vale S-Class. I've tried to look them up to see if I can get hold of one, but I haven't seen anything on eBay. I need to have a hunt through Google, if not when I go to some model shows, see if I can pick one up, because it's so tiny. I love the tiny little locos. I'm not going to like them all, if I'm honest. But that's a wonderful little loco. Ran really, really well. I think it needs a little bit more running. It was getting quieter and quieter as I used it, and I think you'll agree there's something cute about this tiny little loco. And again, I should probably put some little people in there for him, so he's got some people in there. I want to say a big thank you to my patrons and my channel members. I appreciate everything that you do. I get some nice feedback from you nice and early. The advantage of being a patron or a channel member is that you can see the videos early. I try and release it a couple of days early. It depends how well the edit's gone. And so it's a pleasure to be able to do that and have that extra support, which I put back into the channel as well. So yeah, it's nice to be able to do that. I hope you're all okay and taking care of yourselves, and you have a great weekend. I'll see you soon. Goodbye.